Hi listeners, this is Lori from Her Half of History. It's March, and in the US that means Women's History Month. I'm celebrating with free-to-everyone bonus episodes every Monday, all month long. I'm also celebrating with a prize drawing where a listener like you will win some free Her Half of History merch. There are 4 ways to get yourself in the drawing. You can 1. Sign up as a supporter on Patreon, any level. 2. If you're already a Patreon supporter, bump up your current support level. This is cool anyway because if you go all the way to the Her Highness level of support, you get ad-free episodes and bonus episodes all in the same feed on your favorite app. 3. Make a one-time donation. Links to do any of those first 3 options are available on the website, herhalfofhistory.com, and also in the show notes of this episode. The 4th way to get in the drawing is give me a rating or review in your favorite podcast app. This last option doesn't send me any way to contact you, so to get in the drawing, you'll also have to email me a screenshot of it at herhalfofhistory@gmail.com. No matter which option you choose, you'll have my undying gratitude for your support. It really does make a difference as I tell the stories of women in history. Welcome to Her Half of History. My name is Lori. I am deep in research for Series 11. My bookshelf is overflowing, as are the open tabs on my browser. But nothing is ready there yet, and today I am bringing you not 1, but 2 episodes from the History Daily podcast. History Daily is a fellow member of the Into History podcast network, so this is a taste of what you will get if you sign up there, and it'll be ad-free. The first episode I'm playing for you is Nellie Bly Races Around the World.
It's just after 9 o'clock in the morning on November 14th, 1889. On an ocean liner cruising through New York Harbor, 25-year-old reporter Nellie Bly walks along the ship's promenade deck. It's the first time she's ever been on a vessel like this, and she marvels at the sheer enormity of it. A faint haze floats through the air, and Nellie looks up to see smoke churning out from the ship's 3 tall chimneys. She hopes that the steamship's engines are as powerful as she's been told. She needs to reach London in 7 days, or she'll miss her onward connection. And if she doesn't make that, her quest to travel around the world in less than 80 days will be over before it starts. Nellie places her only piece of luggage, a small satchel, on a deck chair and walks to the side of the ship, clutching onto the rail. She looks back at the newly built Statue of Liberty, standing proud on a small island in the harbor. But the heartwarming sight of Lady Liberty doesn't make Nellie feel any less seasick. The ship's gentle rocking has her bile rising in her throat, and despite her best efforts, she cannot hold it down. Nellie inhales deeply, trying to stave off the persistent nausea. She rests her head on the rail, enjoying the cool feel of the metal. It's through the vibrations of the rail that she notices the ocean liner has picked up speed and is pushing out toward the open sea. As she looks up to see the bow waves surging forward into the Atlantic, one of the ship's officers approaches and gives Nellie a sympathetic look. His advice to avoid being seasick is to look at the horizon. Nellie smiles awkwardly, embarrassed, but pleased that her round-the-world journey has finally begun. She's making this long, dangerous voyage as a publicity stunt. She hopes that in the end, the long days at sea and the bouts of sickness will be worth it, and that her name will forever be enshrined in the annals of history. By 1889, Nellie Bly is already one of the best reporters at the New York World. She's an intrepid journalist, best known for feigning madness to write an exposé on a lunatic asylum. After that, she told her editor about an even more spectacular story she hoped to write. She wanted to leave her home in Jersey City and circumnavigate the globe quicker than the fictional expedition of Phileas Fogg, the main character of Jules Verne's popular novel Around the World in 80 Days. Nellie loved the idea of a woman traveling on her own, challenging the social norms of late 19th century America. After mulling the idea over, her editor agreed. He decided it would be a flashy stunt, one that would sell copies of his paper. But today, as Nellie's ship steams out of New York Harbor, she is completely unaware of one critical piece of information. She is not the only woman planning to make the trip around the world. In fact, later that same day, another woman reporter will attempt to make the same trip and beat Nellie's time. Their voyages will become a round-the-world race with the clock starting to count down on November 14th, 1889. From Noiser and Airship, I'm Lindsey Graham, and this is History Daily. History is made every day. On this podcast, every day, we tell the true stories of the people and events that shaped our world. Today is November 14th, 1889. Nellie Bly races around the world. It's 11 o'clock in the morning on November 14th, 1889, just over an hour into Nellie Bly's journey around the world. 28-year-old Elizabeth Bisland, a writer for Cosmopolitan magazine, is reading at her New York home when she hears a knock on the parlor door. Her maid enters and presents Elizabeth with a letter that's just been hand-delivered by a breathless messenger. Elizabeth opens the envelope and cocks her head. It's from the editor of the magazine, and he insists that she come to his office at once. Elizabeth dons her coat and heads for the door, wondering what this summons is all about. In the United States, the late 19th century gave rise to stunt journalism, a form of writing where reporters take personal risks to get stories they otherwise wouldn't have gotten. Newspapers and magazines employed daring writers to interview criminals and infiltrate sweatshops, factories, and illegal abortion clinics. The reporters who pursued these juicy scoops were often women, and these so-called stunt reporters, like Nellie Bly and Elizabeth Bisland, have played a major role in exposing some of society's biggest ills. But today, as Elizabeth steps inside the Cosmopolitan building, she has no idea what her editor might have in mind for her. She finds out when she sees a copy of the New York World splayed across her editor's desk. The top story on its front page declares that one of their reporters has set off on a trip to emulate Phileas Fogg's journey in Around the World in 80 days. Elizabeth quickly puts two and two together, and her editor grins. He tells her that yes, he wants Elizabeth to make the same journey and to do it faster than the New York World reporter. His idea is that Elizabeth will go the opposite way around the world, crossing the United States first by rail before catching an ocean liner to Japan. If Elizabeth takes that route, she won't have to wait as long for onward connections, and she should beat Nellie Bly. But Elizabeth points out that Nellie Bly is already on her way. Her editor's grin widens as he tells her that's why she needs to start tonight. Elizabeth stammers as she accepts the challenge, but she still can't get her head around the magnitude of the assignment. Her main worry is that she'll have to cancel the dinner party she's due to host tomorrow. The next 12 hours are a flurry of activity. Elizabeth rushes home to pack. She stuffs her trunk with what she thinks are essentials, but it won't close. She takes pieces of clothing out and repacks again, repeating this process several times until eventually she is left with just one or two outfits and a handful of basic supplies. Soon she hops in a carriage that whisks her to a rail station, and there she boards a train bound for Chicago. Finally, Elizabeth lies down in a sleeper compartment and marvels at the events of her day. She awoke expecting nothing out of the ordinary, but now she's begun a journey around the world. As she closes her eyes and tries to fall asleep, she thinks of the reception she'll receive as she beats Nellie. As she listens to the lulling sound of the train rattling over its tracks, Elizabeth smiles. She has a distinct advantage over her competition. She knows she is racing another person around the world, but Nellie does not. And by the time she finds out, Elizabeth hopes, it will be too late. 38 days later, on December 22nd, 1889, Nellie Bly walks into the offices of the Occidental and Oriental Steamship Company in Hong Kong with a spring in her step. She's arrived here 2 days ahead of schedule, thanks to fair weather on her last voyage from Sri Lanka. Now she hopes she can take an earlier ship for the next leg of her journey. For more than a month, Nellie has enjoyed her travels around the world, although it's been exhausting. She felt ill for the entire week-long voyage across the Atlantic. She slept on a train for 3 consecutive nights to make a detour to visit Jules Verne, the author who inspired her unusual assignment. Then she sailed through the Suez Canal. She bought a monkey in Singapore, and now she is halfway through her journey. Only 2 legs remain, crossing the Pacific and then taking a train across North America. She knows these last 2 legs are substantial, but she's feeling rejuvenated now that the home stretch is finally in sight. But today, as Nellie inquires about an early departure at the steamship office, the clerk gives her two pieces of bad news. The first is that there is no earlier ship to take. And two, she's not the only person racing around the world. Nellie's mouth falls agape as the clerk tells her that another woman left Hong Kong 3 days ago, determined to beat her around the globe. Nellie's stomach drops. She thought she was racing time, not another human. When Nellie pumps the clerk for more information, he tells her that a rival publication is seeking to capitalize on Nellie's journey by sending their own reporter on a copycat trip. They aim to beat her around the world by going west instead of east. But Nellie doesn't lose hope. Instead, the news that she has an opponent in this race spurs a new determination in her. When she gets on board her next ship, Nellie plans to inspire the captain to push his vessel to its limits. She will make every effort to get back home ahead of schedule and ahead of Elizabeth Bisland. It's 4 o'clock in the morning on January 17, 1890, 64 days after Nellie Bly's round-the-world journey began. Elizabeth Bisland steps onto a train station platform at Villeneuve, just outside Paris. She looks around, trying to identify the connecting train that will take her to the next and final stop, the French port city of Le Havre. For the most part, Elizabeth's round-the-world trip has gone exactly according to plan. She arrived in San Francisco in time to take a steamer across the Pacific to Japan. In Asia, she made all her connections and managed to arrive in Italy right on schedule. From there, she took a fast mail train bound for France. But as it crossed the Alps, it started to fall behind schedule. And now, as Elizabeth walks along the deserted platform in Villeneuve, she worries she's missed her connection. If she doesn't catch her train to Le Havre, she'll miss the ship that's supposed to take her home. Hearing the distant click of heels, Elizabeth spins around and spots a smartly dressed man striding toward her. He introduces himself as an agent of the Thomas Cook travel firm. He apologizes profusely and explains that because her train was delayed in the Alps, she has missed her connection. The ocean liner Elizabeth was due to catch at Le Havre will leave promptly at 7 o'clock in only 3 hours. There is no way she will make it in time. Defeated, Elizabeth slumps into a seat on the platform. The agent politely explains that Elizabeth could catch a train to Calais and then cross the English Channel and secure a transatlantic voyage there. Elizabeth wearily nods her head in agreement. And then she boards a train, heads for the sleeper car, and plops down into her bunk. With tears in her eyes, she quietly consults her timetables, not trying to wake the other women sleeping in her compartment. The train will arrive too late for her to catch a ship to England today. So tomorrow, after she crosses the Channel and arrives in Dover, she will have to hotfoot to Southampton, or maybe even as far as Ireland, in order to catch a transatlantic steamer. Either way, this setback will significantly delay her journey. She'll still make it back in less than 80 days, but there's no chance she'll beat her counterpart, Nellie Bly. 4 days later, on January 21st, 1890, an ocean liner carrying Nellie Bly docks in San Francisco. Nellie stands gripping the rail, just as she did when her ship left New York Harbor 68 days ago. But this time she isn't feeling seasick. She's marveling at the sight of U.S. soil and relieved at the thought that her journey is in the final stretch. During the ocean liner's voyage across the Pacific, a horrible storm blew in and slowed their speed. Nellie tracked the ship's progress on a map and began to fear that she would not make it back home in time to beat her competition. So Nellie convinced the captain and crew to power across the ocean and make up for lost time. A message was chalked in the engine rooms saying, "For Nellie Bly, we'll win or die." Nellie's encouragement and the efforts of the captain and crew paid off. Despite the horrible weather, the steamship crossed the Pacific in 14 days, 1 day faster than originally planned. Now Nellie just needs to get on dry land and begin her final leg by rail across the United States. Nellie smiles at the ship's captain as he approaches and thanks him for making such a good time. But her smile fades when the captain tells her that there are rumors of a smallpox outbreak in Japan. As a result, no one will be able to leave the ship until a quarantine officer has examined every passenger on board. If a case is discovered, the ship might be quarantined for 2 weeks. Nellie is visibly horrified by the news. But then the captain tells Nellie that a tugboat moored at the side of his ship is about to return to port. If Nellie were to sneak on board, she could bypass the health inspectors. Nellie decides to go for it. The captain points out a rope ladder and tells her to climb down into the boat below. Nellie manages the rope ladder as daintily as her heavy dress will allow, and right after her, her luggage is passed down to the men in the tug, along with the pet monkey she bought in Singapore. But just as the tugboat sailors are about to cast off, a stern voice calls out, demanding to know what in the world is happening. It's the quarantine officer, and he demands that no one leaves until everyone is inspected. Nellie shouts up that she has to get on shore or she might lose her race around the world. The quarantine officer grumbles that she must be examined before she can disembark, but several of Nellie's fellow passengers gather around the officer. They argue with him that he should make an exception and let her go. And as her fellow passengers cheer her on, Nellie calls out, saying the officer can examine her mouth from afar. And then she sticks out her tongue at him as the tugboat chugs away. Within an hour, the tug docks in San Francisco. Nellie is overcome with emotion as she steps foot on U.S. soil for the first time in over 2 months. She's confident that she'll be able to cross the continental United States and return to Jersey City in time to beat Phileas Fogg and Elizabeth Bisland in her race around the world. It's 3:15 in the afternoon on January 25, 1890, 72 days, 6 hours, and 11 minutes after Nellie Bly's round-the-world journey began. Nellie Bly rocks sideways as her train comes to a halt at the Jersey City terminal, the finish line for her circumnavigation of the globe. She looks out the window and sees hundreds of people standing behind barriers on the platform. A man steps forward to open the train door, but Nellie stops him. Instead, she leans out of the window and opens it herself. She has journeyed around the world all on her own and doesn't need a man to open a door for her now. On her 4-day railroad journey across the United States, Nellie Bly was greeted like a returning hero. Crowds flocked to railway stations as she traveled through. She was presented with flowers and candy, and well-wishers tried to get close enough to touch the fabric of her dress, the same dress she wore the entire journey. But now, at last, she is home. Nellie steps onto the platform to officially stop the clock. The crowd explodes in riotous celebration as Nellie is whisked out of the train station, through packed streets and across the Hudson River to the offices of the New York World, where a champagne reception is held in her honor. Only then is Nellie able to slip away to find out what's happened to her rival. Nellie listens intently as Joseph Pulitzer, the publisher of the New York World, tells her that Elizabeth Bisland is still on an ocean liner in the middle of Atlantic because she missed her ship at Le Havre. Pulitzer has an enigmatic smile on his face. He tells Nellie that Elizabeth arrived near Paris in time to catch a train that would have gotten her to Le Havre and her ship, but for some reason she didn't catch that train. She went to England instead. Nellie will later wonder if Pulitzer himself was somehow involved in a plot to sabotage Elizabeth and make sure Nellie won. She'll never know whether the person at the train station deliberately gave Elizabeth false information or whether it was a misunderstanding. Either way, Nellie Bly completed her round-the-world journey in 72 days, setting a record for the fastest ever circumnavigation of the globe. Elizabeth arrived 4 days later. But both Nellie and Elizabeth beat the target set by Jules Verne's Around the World in 80 Days. The bravery shown by these two remarkable women marks a high point of 19th century stunt journalism. Their attempts to replicate Phileas Fogg's fictional journey caught the imagination of America and made them into the two best-known female journalists of their era. The status they achieved after embarking on their round-the-world race on November 14, 1889. Next on History Daily, November 15, 1969, millions of people participate in the Vietnam War Moratorium, one of the largest demonstrations in U.S. history. From Noiser and Airship, this is History Daily, hosted, edited, and executive produced by me, Lindsey Graham. Audio editing and sound design by Molly Bach. Music by Lindsey Graham. This episode is written and researched by Scott Reeves. Executive producers are Stephen Walters for Airship and Pascal Hughes for Noiser.
Your second bonus episode for today is Queen Victoria survives assassination for an 8th time.
It's 6 p.m. on June 10, 1840. Two newlyweds enjoy the evening sun as their open-roofed horse-drawn carriage moves through the streets of London, England. The husband smiles at his wife as she cups her growing stomach. She's 4 months pregnant with their first child. But this isn't any ordinary love-struck couple. This is Victoria, Queen of England, and her husband, Prince Albert. As the carriage nears Buckingham Palace, the peaceful summer evening is broken by a gunshot. But the sound barely phases Victoria. She presumes someone is shooting birds in the nearby park. But Albert sees something that Victoria does not. He quickly grabs his wife's head and pushes her down. She twists away, trying to see what's unnerved her husband, and spots a young man with a pistol in each hand, one already smoking. The young man lifts the other pistol, pointing it straight at Victoria, and fires again. The driver cracks his whip and the carriage lurches forward. As it speeds away from the scene, Victoria turns to see the shooter get tackled to the ground by passers-by. A royal guard runs over, sword drawn and shouting instructions. Before the Queen can see anything further, the carriage turns a corner and the ruckus is out of sight. Only then, as her shock wears off, does it dawn on Victoria that someone just tried to murder her. 18-year-old Edward Oxford's attempt to kill the Queen is the first time Victoria comes face to face with an assassin. But it is not the last. As the figurehead of the largest empire the world has ever known, Victoria will become a frequent target for political extremists, the mentally ill, and those who simply want to earn notoriety. Over the next 42 years, countless letters with death threats will be received by the royal household. And despite the best efforts of those responsible for keeping Victoria safe, 6 more attackers will manage to evade the Queen's guards in their attempts to kill her. In the end, Victoria will endure 8 attempts on her life during her reign, ending with Roderick MacLean's failed shooting on March 2, 1882. From Noiser and Airship, I'm Lindsey Graham, and this is History Daily. History is made every day. On this podcast, every day, we tell the true stories of the people and events that shaped our world. Today is March 2nd, 1882, the 8th attempt to assassinate Queen Victoria. It's May 29th, 1842, 2 years after Edward Oxford tried to kill Queen Victoria. It's a pleasant Sunday morning. Prince Albert and Queen Victoria are again riding in an open-air carriage through the streets of London, this time returning home after attending a service in the royal chapel. Life for the couple returned to normal quickly after the previous attempt on Victoria's life. The failed assassin Edward Oxford was charged with treason and put on trial, but he managed to escape the death penalty. Family members and friends offered testimony suggesting Oxford had a long history of delusion, and the jury acquitted him, declaring him not guilty by reason of insanity. But Oxford was not freed. Instead, he was sent to one of the country's notorious mental institutions. And with their would-be assassin now behind locked doors, Albert and Victoria are happy to resume their carriage rides around their capital with no alterations to their security arrangements. The Queen and her husband wave to cheering spectators at the side of the road as the royal carriage turns onto the Mall, a straight avenue that leads to Buckingham Palace. The driver slows, allowing Londoners a better view of their monarch. And as the royals pass by the crowd, Albert notices one man step forward from the line of spectators, his arm raised and in his hand a pistol. Frozen by terror a second time, Albert can only watch as the man pulls the trigger. The pistol clicks, but it does not fire, and the gunman's shocked expression now mirrors Albert's as the two men briefly lock eyes. Then the gunman slips the pistol into his coat pocket and melts back into the crowd of spectators. As the carriage rolls away, Albert turns and looks back, waiting for signs of a scuffle as the gunman is apprehended. But nobody else seems to have noticed the attempted assassination. All eyes were on the Queen. As soon as they arrive at the palace, Albert reports the attempted shooting. The guards gallop to the scene of the failed assassination, but there is no sign of the gunman. Determined to protect his wife, Albert insists that Victoria must stay in Buckingham Palace until the gunman is found. But the Queen shakes her head. She refuses to be restricted to her house. As Queen of England, her job is to be seen by her people. As the couple quarrels, the commander of the Royal Guards cuts in with another suggestion. Victoria and Albert should ride in their carriage as usual tomorrow to tempt the gunman back out. Extra guards in plain clothes can be stationed along the route, armed with descriptions of the attacker. If the shooter shows himself, they will apprehend him. Victoria's face brightens at the thought of escaping weeks of confinement. She looks to her husband for his thoughts, and begrudgingly, Albert gives in. The next day, Albert twitches nervously as the same open-air carriage circulates Green Park with two uniformed outriders on horseback. Victoria squeezes Albert's leg and tells him to act normally in case he gives the plan away. But despite knowing extra officers are hidden all around the park, Albert cannot help peering behind every tree and bush, closely scrutinizing the face of every person they pass. And soon enough, he spots a familiar man at the side of the path. Albert shouts that that's the gunman. He looks around, but he can't see any of the plainclothes guards. The gunman again opens his jacket and pulls out a pistol. This time the Queen sees him too and screams in panic as the gunman steps toward the carriage and pulls the trigger. This time it fires. Albert flinches and then immediately lunges for his wife. He looks into her shocked face and then sighs with relief as he realizes she's unharmed. Before the gunman can escape again, one of the outriders gallops toward the shooter and knocks him to the ground. Plainclothed officers run from their hiding places and apprehend the failed assassin, a young, unemployed carpenter named John Francis. He, too, will be put on trial, judged guilty of treason, and transported to the penal colonies in Australia. But even after her attacker is on the other side of the world, Victoria's second near-death experience will continue to shake both her and the establishment as it becomes a harbinger of the many more perils that will befall the Queen. It's June 27, 1850 in London, 8 years after John Francis's double attempts on Queen Victoria's life. A crowd gathers on the street outside Cambridge House, craning their necks to catch a glimpse of Her Majesty as she leaves. Sergeant James Silver stands nearby, trying to keep the animated crowd away from the gate. In the wake of John Francis's failed attacks on the Queen, the Royal Guards did their best to heighten security measures. Still, they have to struggle to keep Victoria safe. Just 2 months after Francis's failed assassination attempt, another shooter fired a gun at the Queen. 7 years later, a fourth gunman fired at the royal carriage. Fortunately, Victoria was unharmed by any of these attempts. And though the possibility of future attacks still weighs heavily on her mind, the dangers of the job have not stopped the Queen from interacting with her subjects. So at the sound of horses trotting on the cobbles, Sergeant James Silver steps forward and shouts at the onlookers to move out of the way. A cheer erupts as Victoria's carriage appears, moving slowly through the gate to ensure nobody is run over. As the carriage creeps past the spectators, a brightly dressed man steps forward from the crowd and swings a walking cane at the Queen's head. An onlooker grabs the attacker's coat and pulls him backward onto the ground. Several others rush forward, tackling, kicking, and punching him. The attacker, former Army officer Robert Pate, is a familiar sight on the streets of London. For years, children have teased and goaded him for his odd behavior and his penchant for wearing garish clothes and goose-stepping around London's parks. But he won't be a figure of fun in London any longer. Like John Francis before him, Pate is charged, found guilty, and transported to the Australian colonies. The attack leaves the Queen with a black eye and a cut on her forehead, but she is not seriously injured. Still, the incident remains worrisome. Once again, a person displaying signs of mental illness has tried to harm the Queen, and this time the authorities were unable to stop him. Pate's attack leads some to question again whether there's a better way to protect the Queen. Many speculate that the solution is harsher treatment of Victoria's would-be assassins, even those deemed insane. But no changes to the law are made. Instead, 14 years later, Queen Victoria's first shooter is almost able to walk free. After a court deemed Edward Oxford not guilty of treason by reason of insanity, he was incarcerated in an asylum. There, Oxford became a model patient. He read widely, taught himself to play the violin, and became fluent in several languages. He even worked diligently as a painter and decorator on the hospital wards. So in 1864, 24 years after his assassination attempt, his behavior is enough to assure his doctors that he's of sound mind, and they suggest he be released. But the Crown isn't so sure. So Home Secretary Sir George journeys to the asylum to judge Oxford's state for himself, and decide whether to accept the doctor's recommendation. Sir George follows the doctor down a long corridor, his shoes tapping on the tile floor. The doctor stops at a window and gestures to a patient on the other side. Sir George peers through the glass at a smartly dressed man playing the violin. The Home Secretary finds it hard to believe that this is the notorious Edward Oxford. Noticing the two men observing him through the window, Oxford turns and smiles. The doctor then opens the door and introduces his patient to the Home Secretary, the man who holds Oxford's fate in his hands. Sir George is brisk and businesslike. He quickly turns the conversation to the crime that brought Oxford to the asylum in the first place. Oxford politely interrupts to correct Sir George. He did not commit a crime because he was judged not guilty due to insanity. Sir George harumphs, making clear he disagrees with the court's verdict, and demands to know if Oxford is still a threat to the Queen or anybody else. But Oxford again takes issue with Sir George's question. He replies that he was never a threat to the Queen, claims that his guns were not loaded with bullets, just powder. Throughout their conversation, Sir George struggles to hide his exasperation with Oxford and his meticulous answers. When the interrogation is finally over and Oxford has been sent away, the doctor repeats his belief that Oxford is now sane and safe to be released into society. Sir George just shakes his head, though. He agrees that Oxford is lucid and cogent, but he must consider more than just Oxford's state of mind. Since she ascended to the throne, 5 different attackers have tried to harm the Queen. Every week, more threats to her life are received by Buckingham Palace. Sir George worries that releasing Oxford will encourage further attempts. So he announces that Oxford cannot be released. It makes no difference if he is sane or not. But Sir George's decision to keep Oxford behind locked doors will not end the attempts on Queen Victoria's life. 8 years later, another gunman will take a shot at the monarch. But it will take yet another, final attempt on the Queen's life to prompt a change in the law that will raise the stakes for any future assassins. It's March 2nd, 1882, 18 years after Edward Oxford was refused release from his mental institution. 15-year-old Gordon Chesney Wilson lifts his top hat and cheers as Queen Victoria's carriage again rolls through the streets. Gordon has strolled from nearby Eton College to welcome the Queen as she arrives for a weekend at Windsor Castle. Gordon excitedly jogs alongside the carriage as it moves along the road until an older man elbows him aside. The man shoves forward through the crowd, jostling others, and then Gordon sees him lift a revolver. The 15-year-old leaps, pushing the gunman in the back just as he pulls the trigger, and the bullet flies wildly over the top of the carriage. As the gunman trips and falls to the ground, Gordon raises his umbrella and begins pummeling the gunman's hand, trying to knock loose his weapon. The old man, Roderick MacLean, is the 7th person to attempt to kill Queen Victoria. For the monarch, the incident is little more than an unfortunate but unexpected occupational hazard. After enduring attack after attack, Victoria was forced to accept that her position as monarch will always make her a target, writing to her daughter that it is worth being shot at to see how much one is loved. But by and large, the British people disagree, and there is a public outcry when the verdict of MacLean's trial is announced. After only 5 minutes deliberation, the jury returns a verdict of not guilty by reason of insanity, the same verdict that was handed down to Edward Oxford 42 years earlier. The unpopular outcome of MacLean's trial will spur the British government into action. Quickly, they will enact the Trial of Lunatics Act, which creates a new legal verdict, guilty but insane, rather than not guilty by reason of insanity. The change will ensure future would-be assassins are treated as criminals and kept incarcerated for as long as the law deems necessary. And the legal shift will appear effective. For the last 19 years of her reign, Queen Victoria will endure no further assassination attempts after Roderick MacLean's failed shooting on March 2, 1882. Next on History Daily, March 3, 1910, John D. Rockefeller commits to donating the bulk of his fortune to charity, leading to the creation of the Rockefeller Foundation and turning the oil tycoon into one of the biggest philanthropists in American history.
Many thanks to Lindsey Graham and the History Daily team for this feed swap. You can find them wherever you get your podcasts or ad-free on the Into History Podcast Network. Links in my show notes. You can find me at herhalfofhistory.com or on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, X, whatever it is now. You can support me on Patreon or at Into History, and in any of these places you can leave a comment about what you liked and whether you think being queen is worth it if you have to dodge attempted assassins. Thanks!
I'm Ken Harbaugh, host of Burn the Boats from Evergreen Podcasts. I interview political leaders and influencers, folks like award-winning journalist Soledad O'Brien and conservative columnist Bill Kristol, about the choices they confront when failure is not an option. I won't agree with everyone I talk to, but I respect anyone who believes in something enough to risk everything for it. Because history belongs to those willing to burn the boats. Episodes are out every other week wherever you get your podcasts.